In the Black Girls with Queen, I wanted to give a shout out to Ring IQ Boxing, and remember to tune in to the motherfucking relay.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. It's official. Late next month, Ashley Gonzalez will be taking on Lourdes Juarez for the second time for what is Ashley's newly obtained WBC Super Flyweight title, the Super Flyweight title that she won from Lourdes last year. The rematch between them. I vaguely recall it was actually supposed to go down at some point last year, but for whatever reason, it didn't. As a result of that, it got pushed back, and now it's set to go down next month. What do I think about this fight? I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting Lourdes Juarez, who sports a professional record of 34 wins, 3 losses, no draws, 4 knockouts, having only ever been knocked out once. Just once. Just once in 37 professional fights. I wasn't expecting Lourdes to lose this thing. Lourdes, who comes from a fighting family, the Fighting Juarez sisters, Barbie Juarez and Lourdes Juarez. Boxing's got a way of surprising you. And this fight's outcome, it surprised me. It was the come-forward, consistent aggression from the challenger, Ashley Gonzalez, versus the boxing lateral movement from the champion, Lourdes Juarez. I don't want to say it was one-sided because it wasn't, though the pressure from Ashley Gonzalez, it was consistent. Even in moments where Lourdes Juarez was able to fight Ashley off. Moments where both fighters are letting their hands go. Moments where things are shaking, rattling, and rolling. What was consistent is that Ashley Gonzalez was very much the aggressor, more often than not. She was the one stalking Lourdes. Ashley Gonzalez, who sports a professional record of 15 wins, 2 losses with no draws, 7 knockouts. She's a decent-sized puncher, an aggressive one. And for the majority of that fight with Lourdes last year, that's what she was doing. Being aggressive, coming forward, keeping Lourdes on the move, fighting on the fly, and under pressure. It's not that Lourdes was getting outworked, per se, or getting outfought. It's more along the lines of consistency. Consistently, Ashley Gonzalez was marching forward, backing up, backing off Lourdes Juarez. I say it all the time. You don't want to spend too much time with your back against those ropes. Because you don't get there by yourself. Somebody puts you there. And to the eye, Ashley Gonzalez's pressure forced Lourdes Juarez back. Forced Lourdes to try to create space, so much so that she spent a good amount of time with her back on those ropes. And it's because Ashley put her there. Ashley Gonzalez, who saw action 2 times last year, 2 times, once against Jessica Gonzalez in April, then the Lourdes Juarez fight in October. Lourdes herself, she kept a very similar schedule. She saw action 2 times last year. Once in June, opposite the ring, Deborah Gomez. Then again in October, opposite the ring, Ashley Gonzalez, who pried the green belt, pried the WBC title away from her. Next month, late next month on the 25th, Lourdes hopes to win it back. Can she do it? Well, the adjustment that Lourdes has to make for this fight isn't a dramatic one. It's not a big adjustment. She just needs to be a bit busier in the second fight. She needs to be more assertive. She doesn't always want to be the one laying off, circling away, back on those ropes, trying to create space, because it gives off the impression that she can't hold the center of the ring and she can't keep Ashley off of her. She had bursts of aggression in the fight where she fought Ashley off in spots, and that's what we need to see more of in the rematch. She needs to be more assertive. She needs to do more to hold the center of the ring. Moreover, she needs to see if she can't put Ashley Gonzalez on the back foot. See if she can't put Ashley Gonzalez's back on those ropes. That's what we need to see more of in the second fight, in the rematch, because the first one, it wasn't one way, it wasn't one-sided, but there were certain elements of the match that were consistent, that Ashley Gonzalez consistently, she's the one coming forward or trying to. Even in moments where Lourdes was able to fight her off, Ashley Gonzalez would recompose herself, get back on that horse, and keep marching forward. Like I said, the adjustment ain't a big adjustment, the one that Lourdes has to make. She just has to be busier, more assertive. This fight is for the WBC title in the women's super flyweight division. Super flyweight, that's where Argentina's Clara Lescurat holds the WBA title. Maciela Lujan, she's got the IBF, and Japan's own Mizuki Hiruta, she's got the WBO. Ashley's got the WBC. Lourdes hopes to win it back. If she does, she'll be one of 4 champions at this weight. Irrespective of who wins the fight, there's an unbeaten up-and-comer from the West Coast that goes by the name Adelaida Ruiz, the WBC's interim champion. I expect that the winner, whoever it is, they may soon find themselves under orders by way of the WBC to satisfy their mandatory challenger, interim champion Adelaida Ruiz. This rematch between Lourdes and Ashley is
it's being billed as a Marv Nation Promotions show.
And Marv Nation just so happens to promote Adelaida Ruiz. She's fought under that promotional banner for quite a few fights now.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
Just something you want to keep your eye on ahead of this rematch set to go down late next month, and we'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. In men's super lightweight news broke yesterday. The WBO have officially ordered Josh Taylor to defend his WBO super lightweight world title versus Teofimo Lopez next. It's already been reported that the pair are in negotiations and close to a deal for May 27th or June 23rd in Scotland.
Perhaps it's bad optics that reports indicated they started negotiating with each other before this order came down. The order itself seems like a formality.
In some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't, because essentially what that means is that if Josh Taylor can hang on to the brown belt and defeat Teofimo Lopez, successfully defend the WBO title, the way is clear for a Cat Jatterall rematch.
There won't be any impediments. There won't be anything standing in the way.
We know those two boys were supposed to fight for the second time, but Josh suffered a plantar fascia injury and their rematch got delayed, which ultimately ended up in the rematch getting scrapped altogether.
Now Jack is set to see action against an opponent that is yet to be announced in March on the undercard of Okoli versus Light.
David Light, Lawrence Okoli's mandatory challenger by way of the WBO. Jack is set to return to action on that undercard, and Josh, who I just mentioned, he's fighting Teofimo.
I think he looks at Teofimo as a tune-up fight, a keep busy fight.
My honest opinion, this is a good fight. It's intriguing. But that doesn't change that they're cherry-picking each other, that they view each other as perhaps safer options than what else was on the table. That Teofimo may be a safer option for Josh than Jack Catterall straight away.
Off an injury.
And to Teofimo, Josh Taylor may seem like a safer option than, say, Regis Prograis, newly crowned WBC super lightweight champion, because Josh ain't been looking too good. To a lot of people, Josh lost to Jack Catterall. Thus, he seems the weakest link at 140 pounds.
So he still is an unbeaten fighter, an unbeaten champion. To a lot of people, he shouldn't be.
Injury-prone and sparsely active, I think a lot of people tend to forget that Josh Taylor, initially, when he was supposed to fight Jack Catterall for the first time, he suffered an injury ahead of that fight as well. Here he is suffering an injury again ahead of what was supposed to be their rematch.
Which then got postponed, which then turned into a Teofimo Lopez fight.
And it's a good fight. It's interesting. It's intriguing. But just because it's a good fight doesn't mean they're not cherry-picking each other. Based on what else was on the table, these are safer fights for both Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez.
Teofimo Lopez looked horrible in his last fight.
And that was opposite the ring, Spain's own Sandor Martin, a late replacement.
A southpaw.
Like Josh Taylor's a southpaw, though there is more to both of those boxers than which hand they lead with. Where Sandor Martin is a defensively responsible, safety-first, outside fighter, Josh Taylor is an aggressive, mid-range to inside puncher, inside fighter.
They're both southpaws, but they got differences.
Who's catching who at the right time here? There's a credible enough argument on either side of the coin that maybe Teofimo's catching Josh at the right time, or maybe Josh is catching Teofimo at the right time. Post-fight, after that lackluster showing with Sandor Martin, Teofimo was seen in plain sight, questioning whether or not he's still got it.
Giving this fight a redeeming quality for the victor, whoever the winner ends up being.
For Josh Taylor to show the world that he's still got it, and he's still the man to beat at 140 pounds, he needs to take care of this 135-pounder that hasn't proven anything at this weight yet.
And for Teofimo to establish himself as any kind of a force at 140 pounds, the same applies to him. He needs to beat Josh Taylor. If you can't beat Josh Taylor under these circumstances, who can you beat at 140 pounds?
If he does beat him, he will become a two-division champion and a two-time lineal champion, lineal at 135 and lineal at 140. He will be in possession of an alphabet title that he can so choose to defend against Devine Haney, the current reigning undisputed lightweight champion, upon his ascent to super lightweight.
Yeah, if Teofimo wins, that sets that up.
A potential fight between them. This is a fight that has a lot of repercussions and possible scenarios attached to it. Even if both boys are playing it safe, in a manner of speaking, it still is a very intriguing fight, and a fight of some significance for more reasons than just Josh's WBO title.
Looks like we're going to see it in May.
And just in keeping with the theme of super lightweight news, Regis Prograis himself stated, if it swims like a duck, flies like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And he tagged Jose Ramirez and Rick Merrigan, who handles the career of Jose Ramirez. We already know what happened. The WBC ordered a fight between them, and the Ramirez people decided to go the other way.
Regis himself posted an article that reads,
Let's just call it what it is. Jose Ramirez is flat out ducking Regis Prograis. I rarely use that word as it relates to boxing, but when the shoe fits, and I don't care what anyone tries to quote-unquote explain about the situation, here are the facts. The WBC mandated the fight, and had there been a purse bid, the split would have been the normal WBC 65-35 in favor of Prograis, who has the title. Ramirez threw away the fight because he insisted on 40%. More to the point, the purse split outlined by the WBC is only if there's a purse bid. Ramirez's team could have negotiated and declined to.
they didn't want the fight. It never made it that far.
Ramirez will instead face Richard Comey on March 25th in a fight nobody cares about, except only the most diehard Ramirez fans.
That's the most damning thing about it, that 65-35 purse split only comes into it if it goes to a purse bid, and it never actually made it that far.
And it didn't take long for Jose Ramirez and his team to walk away from the Prograis fight and land on Richard Comey. It felt like it was only really just a week.
Maybe a little over, but the same applies. It didn't take long.
Now, as you can imagine, Rick Mirrigan, Jose Ramirez's mouthpiece and manager, he's not taken too kindly to any of this, replying to Regis by saying, "You are managed by an ex-ESPN writer and a fitness instructor, and you wonder why you have 0 fights, 0 endorsements, 0 people watch you, and have made less money than any champion at your level in history. Like I said would happen. No fights, no money, no deals, no future."
Who cares? Your fight still has no buzz.
No one is buzzing about Ramirez versus Comey, and to a lot of people, no matter who you ask, it looks like a duck. It was a title shot. It was a title. And you didn't want that title because you didn't want that fight. You didn't want that fight in 2018 before the World Boxing Super Series, and you don't want it now. You want a business of boxing the hell out of everybody.
If it was somebody other than Regis with that belt, I think the Ramirez people wouldn't have walked away so quickly. I think they would have been more open-minded.
More flexible. Rick continued, "I don't make excuses, I make things happen, and I'll say it again. You're a generational talent and personality who can fight like hell. You just have a shit setup, and that's your fault. Ramirez is on another level."
What level? He's fighting super lightweights back to back.
Now go take another vacay. You ain't fighting, and I got work to do. And let me put this in perspective for you. I have non-champions who make more than you, who have not even fought for a strap, and have more endorsements in one fight than you in your whole career. Talk shit to your team, not me. You can't. I handle my shit and get things done, champ.
Oh, Jose's got endorsements, so it's not a duck. Well, that changes everything, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. Listen, nobody can force Jose Ramirez to fight this guy. If he wants to go another direction, he can do that. Nobody can stop him. The same way nobody can stop the general public from calling this a duck, because that's what it looks like. That's what it is.
It's a fucking duck.
And all this business of boxing stuff, give me a break.
Jose Ramirez ain't Canelo Alvarez, you know.
What the hell's Rick talking about? This guy's on another level.
What level?
What the hell are you talking about? You are not above fighting a Regis Prograis.
Can we just cut the fucking crap? You didn't want to fight him because you know you can't beat him.
You can't beat him, and you fucking know that.
Couldn't beat him in 2018, you can't beat him now.
You're making this about percentages. You're making this about endorsements. Jose Ramirez himself brought up Regis being in bed with Pro Bellum.
How Bob don't want to work with them.
If he's in control of the show and it happens on ESPN, he won't have to. These are excuses. And what this is really about is the threat level. Regis Prograis stands a very good chance of beating Jose Ramirez, and they fucking know it.
You keep him busy with all these guys who moved up from 135 in the hopes that you can climb into the ring with another guy who moved up from 135 in Teofimo Lopez. That's what this is all about.
You don't fucking fool anybody. And just in keeping with the theme of news, at or around these weights, ahead of what's supposed to be the Ryan Garcia fight, Baltimore boxing champion Gervonta Davis pled guilty in a hit and run earlier today. For those not aware, he had a court date today.
Told you about it last week.
Baltimore boxing champion Gervonta Davis pled guilty on Thursday to 4 traffic offenses in connection to a hit and run that injured 4 people, including a pregnant woman, in 2020. Davis, 28, was set to stand trial in Baltimore Circuit Court before taking the plea agreement. Circuit Judge Althea M. Handy will determine the punishment for the crime at sentencing on May 5th.
In theory, they could still do the Ryan Garcia fight at some point in April.
But that gives them a limited window of opportunity. to really promote this show and really sell it. I mean, what is that? Roughly 8 weeks? Just a little under?
Just about. What remains of this month, the whole of March, and
2 weeks?
maybe a little over 2 weeks' time in April.
On November 5th, 2020, Davis was at a club celebrating his birthday and his latest victory in the ring. He was driving a 2020 Lamborghini Urus SUV on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard at about 1:50 a.m. when he ran a red light and hit a 2004 Toyota Solara, Baltimore police reported. The car was destroyed. According to police, 4 people were taken to the hospital, police reported, while Davis left in another car that showed up on the scene.
For the longest time, people have been telling you that Gervonta Davis is some kind of superstar.
But he ain't got superstar sponsorships, superstar endorsements. Major brands and major companies don't want to be associated with someone like a Gervonta Davis, and stuff like this is why.
4 people were taken to the hospital, police reported, while Davis left in another car that showed up on the scene. Circuit Judge Melissa M. Finn previously rejected a proposed plea agreement in the case that called for Davis to serve no jail time in the crash.
They rejected that plea deal, and it sounds a lot like they want him to see some time, do some time.
How does anybody support this piece of shit?
Well, let's be honest, that a good chunk of the guys and girls that support Gervonta Davis are a bunch of fucking lowlifes, just like he is. Birds of a feather flock together.
He does have a cult following. He does have a group of guys and gals that really support him.
But the overall growth of that group of guys and gals has stagnated after approximately 5 separate pay-per-view appearances, 5 appearances at the box office. The audience doesn't seem to be getting any bigger, and I'd wager that stuff like this is why.
The 2 domestic abuse incidents, the hit-and-run accident.
There are only so many people that are gonna look the other way, turn a blind eye to Gervonta Davis's outside of the ring hijinks, and what he's doing inside of the ring really isn't so captivating.
How much of this are you supposed to ignore?
The recent admission of Stefan Espinoza himself, Showtime Sports executive Stefan Espinoza, who very recently appeared on some little-known podcast, a space somewhere on Twitter. I forget what the name is.
He said the Hector Luis Garcia fight didn't crack 200,000 buys, and that's the second biggest fight Gervonta Davis has had at the box office.
What that essentially means is that 4 out of his 5 fights haven't cracked 200,000 pay-per-view buys at the box office. The audience is not growing.
He's got this hanging over his head now ahead of what could still be the Ryan Garcia fight. Could this be a distraction?
Possibly. It's not wishful thinking. It's me looking at this situation and just calling it down the middle. This is less than ideal for a fighter who's about to go into a very big fight. This is less than ideal for the promoters who hope to orchestrate this event and sell it.
This bozo's running red lights and slamming into cars with pregnant women inside, then fleeing the scene.
Sounds like a piece of fucking trash. Sounds like a piece of shit. A piece of garbage.
Who's supposed to root for this guy? Who's supposed to support him?
And now he may have to face the music in early May.